and it's that 2 people we now know have been killed. Almost 70, though, are injured after a car drove into crowds at a German Christmas market last night.
That's right. The suspected attacker arrested at the scene is believed to be a 50-year-old doctor from Saudi Arabia. Images and video circulating online, too awful, I'm afraid, too awful to show you on air, show a car being driven at really high speed right into the Christmas market, right through people. Yeah. And the vehicle appearing not to slow down. In fact, it looks so fast, you wonder how anyone nearby could have possibly survived. Joining us now is GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Hi there, Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning. The story has changed.
Good morning to you. It was just after... Sorry.
Yeah, no, go on. I was going to say there was still a lot of speculation last night about who it was and what the possible motive could have been. What's the very latest? Because the story has rather changed, hasn't it?
Well, to an extent, yes. The individual who was arrested by police shortly after this attack took place in the Christmas market in the centre of Magdeburg is a 50-year-old man, originally from Saudi Arabia. He came to Germany, first of all, in 2006. And astonishingly, of course, he was also a doctor working in one of the area hospitals. Now, of course, attention, as it always does, turns to motivation. Was this a terrorist attack? Was it not a terrorist attack? What we can say, and it's very clear from the political leaders in Germany and around the world with the comments that they are saying, and from what we've witnessed ourselves, looking at that video that you quite rightly say, Anne, is too horrific actually to show on air. It's very obvious this was a deliberate ramming attack. Now, whatever the sick motivation that forced an individual to get behind the wheel of a car and to drive it at such high speed into this Christmas market and to continue at high speed for hundreds of meters along this Christmas market, scattering bodies as it went. We don't know at this stage, quite frankly. There are reports that this individual may actually have been anti-Islamist in his views. But as I say, whatever the twisted motivation and logic was behind this event, it's clear from everything we've been told that this was a deliberate attack targeting some of society's most vulnerable, young children, a young child confirmed among the dead, and of course many people, up to almost 70 it appears at this stage, that have been injured. And, you know, when the German authorities are back and functioning again in terms of their press operation today, I'm sure we'll get an update on those figures coming out. But truly awful event. You were saying before you came to me about this proud tradition, of course, that the Germans have about, you know, over Christmas markets. It really is. They are so incredibly proud and nostalgic about their Christmas markets and attend these events in very significant numbers. There were many hundreds of people at the Magdeburg Christmas market when this attack took place.
OK, Mark, we'll leave that there and join you a bit later on. We're now joined, I think, by journalist Rob Hyde from Germany. Hello there, Rob. We've been reading your article in this morning's Telegraph. You quote Bild, the German newspaper, as saying it was indeed a terrorist incident. Is that what the police are saying now?
It is what the authorities have said. It's also been the case that the mayor of Magdeburg had also referred to it as an attack, and then later on it was confirmed by police that it was a terror attack. There have been some questions regarding Bild, because Bild initially had reported that there were 11 people who had died, and then, as you've rightly said, the official deaths so far have been announced as being an adult and a young child. So there were some questions there, but yeah, it's an ongoing situation, and it's still kind of developing and breaking.
Yeah, Robin, and it is shocking. I'm looking at the political reaction here. Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, his thoughts are with the victims and families. And in Britain, of course, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, saying his thoughts are with the victims' families and those affected. And we stand with the people of Germany. And, of course, it's particularly in Germany, we're looking into an election period, aren't we?
That's right. And it's a difficult one because I think there was a knee-jerk reaction on social media to an extent of many people saying, "Oh, is this proof of a failed immigration system?" And Germany has certainly made an awful lot of mistakes in that area. However, I think this is quite complex because the person, when he came in, he didn't actually have any known history of, for example, Islamic extremism and so forth. In fact, as was alluded to by the person who spoke before me, there were actually indications now that more and more research is coming out that he was actually a critic of Islam, and that actually through doing that was what had made him faced even death threats, because he actually renounced Islam. And this is what prompted him to seek asylum. So on one hand, you have that. However, as everyone is already talking about, of course, it's only in 2016 when we had the awful, horrific, murderous attack in Berlin at the Christmas market there, and there seem to have been similarities to that in terms of you had a vehicle. In this case, it was this black BMW, a rented BMW, which ploughed 400 meters into the crowd and also resulted in deaths. And if you then just move away from that and just focus even just this year, there have also been an awful lot of issues and incidents related to Christmas markets in Germany, which haven't really got that much attention in, for example, the foreign media. So, for example, down in Augsburg in December this month, there was a 37-year-old Iraqi national who was allegedly financing terrorism, and he was scouting around the Christmas market, taking photos. He was sharing Islamic State propaganda. Just the month before, in November, there was a 17-year-old German-Turkish national apprehended, and that was at the other end of the country in Elmshorn in Schleswig-Holstein in the north, and he was allegedly planning a truck attack inspired by the 2016 Berlin market tragedy. We've also had cases in November this year in Mannheim and Frankfurt where authorities uncovered a weapons cache, and they arrested 2 German Lebanese brothers also accused of plotting attacks on local Christmas markets. So quite rightly, everyone is now focused on this because it's horrific and horrendous. I'm here in Magdeburg myself, and I've been to the scene, and it really is awful. But I do also think there's been a pattern which hasn't really got the coverage it arguably deserves.
Yes, and that's scary in itself. We'll leave it there, Rob. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And as we say, the facts are sort of changing as we speak, that we're bringing you what is the very latest on that. And certainly there were a lot of weird rumours last night that have been proven not to be worth repeating now.
The social media speculation has held extreme anti-Islam views.
Yes.
And expressed fears about what he says, what he perceived apparently was the Islamisation of Germany, so completely counter to the previous attacks, which viewers might remember. It's particularly one in Berlin, of course, by IS back in 2016 that killed 13 people. So it's never straightforward, and we're not going to be quick to jump to conclusions here.
Absolutely, and I think since there has been this spate of them, and particularly they go for these Christmas markets, which are very much Christmassy family occasions. They're all about outdoor fun, really, aren't they? And you wonder why, in this case, why it should happen, because there doesn't appear to be an apparent motive, an obvious motive. And obviously we will be told more as and when the police discover it. We're joined right now by political commentator and, of course, the former mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Andy, first of all, I know you'll want to give your initial comments on the terrible news overnight.
Morning, Anne. Morning, Chris. Hi. Yes, it's awful. I mean, it's clearly initially thoughts and prayers go for those who've lost loved ones. And I understand the death toll is maybe heading towards 15 over the course of the day. That's speculation. And I suppose that's a warning that there's so much speculation around at the moment, isn't there? The early signs are that this man has published material on X that is anti-Islamification. But I don't know when they were written, so we really need to wait and see. But my fear now is that this awful event will be seized on by some people to fuel a rise in tensions and fear and division. Now, the Christmas market event that's happened today, and as your previous guest was saying, there have been a number of incidents across Germany. I've been seeing for about 4 weeks now in the UK, comments of people who've attended markets about the extraordinary level of armed police and security there. And it would appear, based on what we now know is happening and has happened in Germany, that this is about a perceived threat, an understanding that there were real risks. And it's a warning that we mustn't be too laid back and always be vigilant. And thank goodness that our police and secret services appear to be on top of this, and there have been no major incidents so far.
But I know that I think in Berlin, the famous Christmas market there and others have put up security barriers that no vehicle could plunge into the crowd. And you wonder why that wasn't done here. As somebody who's been mayor of a very large area, have you had to think about such things?
Yeah, absolutely. And very often, actually, councils are very clever now, Anne. What will happen is in certain areas where there might be gatherings, where there are typically lots of people, you get street furniture put in. It can look like flower tubs and other things. And they are flower tubs, but what they're really there for is to stop vehicles gaining unauthorized access for malicious intent. So there are all kinds of clever barriers and safety measures that are put in place that the public don't realize. It's a very common thing. But of course, at the end of the day, Anne, if somebody wants to cause mayhem and endanger others, they will find a way to do it, one way or another, or one place or another. And I say again, I've been hearing for about 4 weeks about the intense security, the very visible armed security at British Christmas markets. So there's a real threat out there that the services know about, and we should all remain very vigilant.
OK, well, there's a lot of domestic politics around, which I know Chris is dying to ask you about.
Well, Andy, there's a lot happening, of course, in the UK. And today's a key day, isn't it, for people affected by the withdrawal of the winter fuel allowance. The deadline is today to apply for pension credit to qualify for winter fuel payment. And there's real concern here, isn't there, that it's complicated to apply, big forms for vulnerable people to fill in, and there may be tens of thousands of people who may be missing out if they don't apply by today.
Absolutely. It's extraordinarily complex. And of course, the very people that the winter fuel allowance was taken from are the people who are often, not always, but often the least able to navigate around these things on their own. I mean, I'm terrible with forms, and goodness knows how someone even older than me manages to do stuff sometimes. So well done to the Lib Dems, by the way. I've been very critical of the Lib Dems for not standing up to the government and challenging them, but they have done in this case, and I'm asking for that extension.
Yeah,
obviously, it's sorry.
Well, yeah, and that may be the case that's required. What I do find anecdotally is people don't want necessarily to give all their financial information away to the state. People don't want to tell everybody all the time. The form is quite complicated, and it's quite why are they doing this when it was previously a benefit which everyone received. Some gave it back, some gave it to charities, some used it to keep warm their homes. But the extra intrusive nature of the inquiries is often off-putting for people.
Absolutely, Chris. So my mother gets scam calls. People call her and pretend to be the bank or Vodafone or whatever services she uses. And she's become quite good, actually, at spotting which ones are the scammers. And we've all spoken to my mother about not giving out personal info. But now, of course, they have to do the opposite. So we're saying don't give out any personal information in a form or on the phone. But, of course, when you get these government forms, you have to tell them everything about yourself. So it's very, very difficult. I think that there's a dimension to this that isn't just about the fuel payment and the application. It's about pensioners feeling overlooked, abused, and actually pessimistic about the future and their lot in the world. And I think that's a theme that runs through the government at the moment, is that the country feels pessimistic and feels that the dour, begrudging tone of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves is what's pushed us into what's almost certainly looking like a recession. The Bank of England took the step and talked about stagnation. I personally think a recession is inevitable. I'm sorry to be two-party political, if that's how it comes across right now, but I really think this is part of a bigger government failing and a personal failing of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, which is instilling a sense of pessimism and fear for the future.
It certainly doesn't feel like a terribly merry Christmas at the moment, does it? We're going to have to leave it there. It's really good to talk to you, though. Thank you very much indeed.